Okay, I'd like to welcome Julie to our event, our webinar. It's focusing on the board. We'll be discussing structures, development, recruiting, and Julie has a wonderful and rich history with the board as giving that the multiple perspectives. She's the founder of Deaf Hope and became the executive director and ran Deaf Hope for many, many years. Has a rich experience in working with the community and the board with her position as the executive director. She's now become the board chair at Deaf Hope, and we are thrilled to have her perspective. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie. Okay? Oh, by the way, feel free to chat any questions you might have. So we will have a Q&A at the end of this presentation as well. Okay, hi. I hope you all are staying cool in this very hot weather. Yesterday's 105 here. Wow. So it should be a little bit cooler here, but still quite hot. So anyways, I'm thrilled and honored to be here with you all. I wish I was able to see your faces because I know some of you, but that's too bad. But anyways, if you have any questions that come to mind, go ahead and type them in the chat box. I won't answer them right away. I'll save them to the end, and I'll answer your questions at the end, okay? That way you don't forget what you wanted to ask, because every question is very important. I am Julie, and Amber explained to you my background. In 1998, I was trained from ADWAS. Quite some time ago, I was pregnant with my third child, who is now 18 years old, soon to be 19. Wow, almost 20 years ago now. I was really the perfect student, observing, learning how to set up domestic violence, sexual assault agencies. I knew nothing prior to this. So I really just jumped all in, very cold. And of course, I was shocked, cried, grief, etc. That's part of the process we all go through during this training. And it's very an eye-opening experience. So anyways, the organization developed partly, from there in 1998. So I brought that over and really followed exactly what I had learned and coordinated that here in the Bay Area, which is different than Washington State. In the Bay Area, what I did not realize was there was two communities are alike. So what might work in Washington State may not work here in California, especially in the Fremont area near the School for the Deaf. So I was really in for a shocking experience that I can't just implement, an organizational idea from another state here. And so that was a learning process, and I learned from that experience. I learned that as a teacher, I can share with others. Amber notified me that you were passionate about learning about board development, fundraising, how to recruit people to join the board, specific people you'd like to be on the board. It's kind of a loaded question. Just here in an hour and a half, I'm hoping I can go through this because, again, it's a very long time to talk through this, what it takes to establish a viable organization that recruits community members and creates community motivation to meet your vision. The vision can't come from you. The vision comes from the community. Like I had stated before, no two communities are alike. You have to know your community. What motivates them? That's very critical. And to have that vision before thinking about fundraising, board development, you have to go back to square one. The value. It's critical to have that values and have it to be caring. It's got to come from the heart. Caring for people. You have to care for diversity, caring for social justice, caring for what's going on in your community. Your old board structure is really, it ends up being a traditional structure. It's passed down from board to board. It's a hierarchy, meaning that you have your executive director who's under the board, then you've got your ED, and under them are your staff members. The executive director becomes the go-between person between the board and its staff and back and forth. The ED is a facilitator, and that's a traditional model. Does that work if you want social justice? A social justice based organization? No, it's actually conflicts with that. That system was based upon creating, by using traditional people who decided that system. Who set that up? That's really where you're looking at here. More white people, starting with male figures, and it works for white males. And we fit into that system. We've adjuncted ourselves to fit. That's really the older system. There's no questioning of the system itself. And who does it work for? And who does it oppress? Does it work for the deaf community? Like, for example, Robert's Rule of Order is named after a white gentleman, Robert. Is that a compatible model? For our work with, DVSA, is that with social justice? Oftentimes it does not lead to an effective result. If you don't get the result you wanted in the community, you're not going to recruit your community. And if you can't recruit your community, you can't get a good board. And there's a cycle that happens here. It's very cyclical. Everything is cyclical here. So really, it's very nice that Deaf Hope was willing to try a new structure to the board. Instead of doing a hierarchical structure where information would be based on, top down, coming to agreements, terms, compromises, not wanting to upset the community, you come to an agreement, it becomes a win-win situation, and you come to an agreement, the result is not satisfactory to the community at large. It's more of a watered down approach and version because you don't get the entire lens and perspectives of the community itself and the community experience. It's very linear. It's not a global view of things. So, Deaf Hope and the board structure changed. Went from a hierarchy structure and became more of a flat structure, became more of an immersed in the community-based structure and survivor-centric. Remember, the old days, I was told bringing survivors on the board is not a good idea. No, don't do that. I'm like, oh, I was a little confused. Okay, I trusted that learning process I had. I must not know why. I must not know the best practice. So I trusted what was available out there and accepted that, like anyone would do when they don't know. What they don't know is what they don't know. And so it's a process of learning. And took a lot of punches, if you will. And you upset survivors in the process. And survivors are upset because the structure is not survivor-centric. So we shifted to a flat, survivor-centric. We wanted their feedback, their comments, their narratives, their participation. That is what DVSA services should be about. DVSA approaches that supporting survivors cannot be accomplished without knowledge of social justice. Now, let me go ahead and step back from one comment on social justice. It's hard work, and I'm disappointed with how the current political climate is given to the word social justice. It's given it a bad name, if you will. Social justice, you get, various expressions and it's somewhat negative, but you can't dismiss that. It's our responsibility to hold the values to social justice in that work. We have a responsibility in the current political climate. And the reason why the climate wants to kind of exempt or push away social justice, make it negative, is saying, oh, those people, is because they don't want to lose their power. They're afraid of social justice because we're distributing the power back to the people. And the people who are traditional, who've been doing it a certain way, that are holding the power like a hierarchy structure, or the current legislative lawmaking bodies, the current political election systems, it's very hierarchy based. And the hierarchy provides people on the top power. Now, what or how our organization is set up, who is the power for? Is it for survivors or for ourselves as administrators, as staff members, as board members? We have to do a lot of caring, and it's taking care. It's a lot of self-questioning, listening to yourself, asking yourself those tough questions. Am I working towards the goal? And the goal is, meeting and recruiting and making people feel that they're empowered. They feel part of this. Or are we preventing that? and oppressing that. Sometimes we unintentionally make that happen with our actions by our old traditions and customs of hierarchy. We oppress people as administrators, as staff members. So we need to do a lot of self diagnosis and looking into the questions. And then we have to ask people, listen, and then ask yourself questions. Instead of saying, but, there's no buts in this. There's no way to avoid this. You can't do that. You can't say, but. What about this? But what about me? But what about this? I'm oppressed too. This is not oppression competition, everybody, okay? This is about listening, understanding. Your perplexed nature or your reservations have to be put to the side. And that's the opportunity to self-inquire. What am I doing? How do I do this differently? Use this discussion with the board and their perspectives. With your staff group, get their perspectives as well. Community-based lens work. That's what we're doing here. Making the best decisions possible instead of one person making the decision. That's a one-sided piece. It's not social justice. Community discussions and decisions, that is what social justice is. And of course, the process is not perfect. It is a messy process. It's very messy. It's a lot of emotions, and that's part of the work. That's what makes this wonderful as well, because it forces you to get out of your comfort zone. So you're looking for board members who like that sort of work and are willing to push out of their comfort zone and are willing to listen and care. That's key. It's self-care, self-inquiry, and inquiring the community and of self. And that is a community-based, survivor-centric work. Now remember, each survivor has their own intersection and intersectionality. Women, gay, women of color. It's very important to recognize all intersectionality identities and working within that paradigm instead of, I remember a particular person, a well-intentioned person, but they thought that limiting, it was a particular school, by the way, limiting students to one after-school club. The student could go black, Cuban, gay, okay? That person wanted to join LGBT, the gay straight alliance, okay? The student also wanted to join the Latinx organization and also wanted to join the Black Deaf Students group and felt like they wanted to be representing the different identities of intersectionality that student had. However, the administrator said, no, I'm sorry, pick one. And that was very disappointing. I had to pick just one. That means it's not accepting me as a whole person. We have to be careful with that sort of attitude and recognizing multiple identities. That will get you a good number of board members when you recognize my identity. I want to participate in that. Enjoying discussions, willing to go to comfort zones, willingness to go to bat for me, supporting me. Sometimes, if I'm tired as a deaf person, I'm going back and forth. It's nice to have somebody who's not in my identity group and outside saying, hey, this is, that's relieving. We can take that role for each other and support each other. That's what boards would represent. That's what staff represents as well. The same message from the board, the director, and then on to the staff. You have this interesting point of view, and who is it supporting? The survivor, of course. Okay? Now I have my notes on my side here, so as I go on, I look down and go on to the next one. So hold on one second. Okay, as I explained, there's caring, inquiry, self-inquiry, leading to social justice. What is social justice and what does that mean? Well, I'm curious. Tell me, what do you think social justice means? Go ahead, please type your comments. There's no wrong answer, by the way. Well, while you're thinking and typing, I'll go ahead and start the discussion of social justice. It's not a habit or practice to automatically respond when you see a person without equality. There's an instant response. It's a process. It's not something you do on Thursdays or I can put off and don't do. It has to be instantaneous. The discussion happens proactively. It's a proactive response with the community discussions and the board. How do you look at this? And the response is there. So it's interesting. On a side note, never respond alone. It's positive 3, 4, or 5 people responding and then going back and forth, showing that commonality and that unity, that same perspective, that same lens to make that change, making sure that person is not equal. So I see a comment here now stating understanding the intersectionality of individual, involving support of everyone, especially those who are experienced in not equity. Okay, equality and inequity are very different. Equality would mean it's a no-brainer. All people should be treated equally, okay? But how do we get them to be treated equally? We have to do the work of equity to build that equity individually. There's different needs to achieve equality. That's equity's work. That's the work of equity. It's a beautiful, inequities, this is a beautiful statement. Who said that? Libby, thank you so much, Libby. Well done. You nailed it. It's a discussion of justice. How do we have justice when one person is not treated as others, as equal as others? How do we approach that? Now, know this: political, social, economic rights. Okay, there's gender as well. Now, able-bodied, disabled, deaf, hearing, all of that. But most people don't understand equity. They think equality. So to bring in a good board member and staff people, it's important to see that they understand the difference between equality and equity. So they don't understand that. It's very hard of a team effort, and you need to provide that training. As a person, well, it's challenging. Getting involved with DVSA, education, with a whole variety of community-based organizations, state agencies. I find a lot of interesting mixes of myself as I develop a lens of community work with social justice, and I get there, and they have a system that's still following traditional hierarchies. And it's challenging. There's a lot of work, so it's important for you to have that support system. The board becomes your support system, and the board knows who to bring in for fundraising events, for your workshops. Not like-minded, like-hearted as well. Yes, having that motivation, that passion of getting together, and it will grow you. You'll plant that seed for that. And then as it grows and expands, people want to give back. I feel at home here. I feel safe here. I want to contribute and give back as a volunteer, or give back as a donor, or as, whatever their unique individual ways can be. Boards have different ways and different capabilities of giving back, and recognizing that and honoring that. So now, as we explain the idea of caring, there's the idea of inquiry, self-inquiry, social justice. Okay, we got those 3 covered. How do you get to your organizational goal? You have to have a vision. So if you don't have a vision, you'll end up being all over the map. You'll get all over the place. You'll run everywhere. You have to have a goal and discuss it to fit your community's goals. It is a shared goal. So that is important to have at your retreat. Have that discussion, agree on what your values are and your vision, and making sure your vision fits your values and the community values. And never without survivors. There should always be a survivor-centric approach. Making decisions for survivors, you are now an oppressor if you do that without them. I don't like hearing people deciding for me as a deaf person. I don't like a man making laws about me as a woman. So we have to be very mindful of that with our power. It's about the spirit of caring. It's a spirit of caring and the ability to adapt. What is our vision, 5 years ago, we don't have the same vision. We've morphed, we've adapted. The community is evolving. We have to also evolve with the community and grow and adapt with it. Flexibility to make changes and adapt. If we stay firm, this is not a black and white thing. We'll lose touch and we'll lose people. If you don't adapt, you will not last. Okay, on to the next value. So this is very important to me. Democracy. What is democracy, everyone? I'm curious. Let me see your perspectives on what is democracy. Let me look down here. Please share your comments. Well, I don't see any comments. I'm waiting for comments. Well, I'll go ahead and start here. Democracy. People are free to themselves, and we recognize our people. Who represents our organization? And they come in, they feel they're free to be themselves. And we're able to adapt and change. Democracy is different to each person, and recognizing that and including that. I'm not seeing any comments. Okay. Democracy is staying engaged with your community. So your organization cannot survive without the things I've listed. It's caring. Do you remember what they are? Okay, there's caring, self-inquiry, social justice, democracy. All those reflect your what? Community. Your community is what keeps your organization running and alive. Your organization is not a piece of paper that says 501c3. It's just a vehicle. But what runs the vehicle, what operates it, is the community and its members. You have to have these pieces ingrained with your community to bring them in, and there's the cycle. The more you do, the more the board and staff will stay, and they're valuing it. It's creating a home within the community. I'm seeing comments here. Okay, a person of which flexibility, a flexible adjustment, democracy, recognizing people and making changes. Be willing to adapt, to meet the democracy of the people, the freedom to be themselves. For example, we had a fundraising event, and it was a drag fundraising event in the month of June. It was during Pride Month. And some people thought, drag has nothing to do with DVSA. I said it has everything to do with it. Drag is, transgender, LGBT, to experience domestic violence, sexual assault as well. So we went ahead and did it. And some people were not comfortable. And I said, too bad, because you know what? They are human beings. They are not immune to domestic violence and sexual violence. We recognize them as human beings. And we adapted our organization to fit and became part of their community. They, in turn, become part of our community. And that's where the back and forth goes. Your institution, your organization adapts to your community. That's democracy. Does that help define that? From death, action? Good. Okay, great. So now back to this list. In your community, I'm going back to community here. Okay. Ask yourself, is your organization communal? Is it, or is it separate? Is it I'll take care of you? Or is it a place the community feels that they can go and participate and be involved at home with my people and my home? Which is it? You'll have a better chance of surviving going through if you design your organization to be more communal and it's communal based. And what do I mean by communal? It's the go-to place. Let me see a question here. Def action, make your board communal. Okay, your board will know if you have a caring, if you have the ability to inquire, if your board is reflecting their experience. The board should reflect your community. Oftentimes, I see, like Gallaudet University. There's many institutions I've seen. I must get this person because they have a PhD, or I must get this person because they're intelligent. Those are the wrong qualities to look for. Getting people who have gone through and experienced DV, SV as a survivor and went through it and they know what it's like. They have more of that heart. They have more of the wisdom. Give them a place where they can feel at home, safe, not judged, supported. This will be it becomes their go-to place where they can share with others. Really the best PR is their experience passing on to friends, saying, oh, hey, you should come. And that friend goes another friend, and they pull in more and more, and it starts with your survivors. Let your survivors create their community. Death survivors have the ability, the sign of hand, the word of mouth, if you will, kind of, hey, you should go here, this is great. And they keep talking about it, they keep signing about it, if you will. If you can let it be survivor-centric, let them make their decisions. Let them run their support group. Let them involve with the community and community forums. That is community. Then you get participation, and they bring in family, or they bring in their children, or they bring in their past friends, former friends who they lost touch with because of DV/SV, and they bring them in. And really, it's really neat. And it takes time to build it, because the time has to have community trust of the organization. Is this organization trustworthy? Will they listen to me? Am I able to share? Can they take my feelings and my heart? Is that something? And that's where it starts with. It starts with that. And the follow-through is key. It's okay if they're exchanging with you complicated intersectionality issues and you don't know the answers. You're not supposed to have the answers. No. Have the community discussion. Try something new together. Maybe it's backfires because you're going through the backlash alone, and me as the conductor of the backlash for the survivor, and they're directing it and really on me, leaving the survivor alone. I'm still experiencing that now, but it's tiring and it's annoying. But always remember, it's easier for me to take the backlash than the survivor. We work together. The survivor knows that. They say, oh, I feel bad. I feel so bad that it's on me. I'm like, no, don't feel bad. We're in this together. That's the community. It's community building trust. Death action. I'm trying to think, where is death action? Which state is that? Amber. Okay. I was thinking the name of DV/SV agency. Pardon me. That's you, Amber. Huh. Okay. Thank you, Amber. Okay, let me ask you, it's kind of a fun quiz here. What are the 5 core values? There are many, many, many of them, okay? There are many core values. But the 5 that are reoccurring for me, I want to share with you. You may have different values that you prefer, but it's important to have core values. Caring is important to me. I like to see people who care enough to risk themselves and step out for others. They care enough. It's more important for me to have a person to have an open heart rather than those who are intelligent. Intelligence is just a given for most people, but having a heart and a willingness to go beyond the call of duty, that's, having that heart, it becomes a contagious. When one or two people are willing to do so, it spreads. And you're trying to create that beautiful community. Democracy is important to me. For me, I feel like that sense of democracy, um, I can have a freedom to be me. I feel good. I feel like I belong. I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to be labeled. I don't like to be, people deciding for me. I'm always, I'm not mindful, but I want to be heartful. I want to be around heartful people. I take it to heart too much. I make mistakes, and I'm hard on myself. But I see that also as a gift. I'm always hoping people will forgive me for my lack of understanding or lack of knowledge. I make a lot of mistakes, but I learn and I become a better person because I keep those issues in my heart. I work through them. It's painful, but it's because I want to be a better person. That is that becomes evident to the community, and the community will recognize that because that comes from the act of caring. I have one example. That's a quote. I'm disappointed to find many of our famous uh, civil rights protests. They were also uh, guilty of DVSV. And it's like, it's almost MLK, Gandhi. Uh, I love many of their quotes, but again, that aside, with his DVSV. But anyways, his one line that really I want to take out here, and then remember, no one is all good and no one is all bad. You got to pick. The one line here is Gandhi tended to have a day of silence. That was part of his meditation and his thought process. Um, there's one time where the news was asking him questions. He was silent. They said, "Hey, do you have anything to say?" And he wrote down a line and showed them the piece of paper. Let my life be your message. What that means to me is what people will know you for what you've done. Be known for what you've done, your actions, and your consistency of heartful intentions, your consistency, and your ability to recognize mistakes and say sorry, and how you can do better next time. Be vulnerable. Those are how you create community of trust, starting with your DVSV agency. Any questions? Let me look. With those values, you're able to set a shared vision. Everyone's invested in. With that shared vision invested by everybody, you have the better ability to recruit people for your board and fundraise and hiring as well. Anything else? Seems to be a quiet group. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next set of notes here. Okay, I'd like to move on to leadership of transformation. I don't know if there's a right sign for this, for transformation. I guess leadership transformation will sign it like this. I guess what's the purpose of your DVSV agency? What's the purpose of your agency? I'm wondering. Okay, question. Let me sign the question I received. Core value of healing, self, survivor, community. How do we bring this to the board? It starts with bringing survivors to the board, welcoming them, getting their perspective, experience, and bringing staff and the community survivor centric. You cannot bring and have this accomplished without being survivor centric and using that approach. Everyone must be surrounded around the survivor's values. To accomplish that, think about your leadership. Are you managing organization or are you a leading organization? I don't mean like I'm the leader, I mean like encouraging the organization to grow. Managing would be more of ordering, direct, maintaining and, running. You become more of a facilitator. This is more work to be a facilitator than a manager. Like I said previously, it's messy. But you need to involve different lenses, people, emotional reactions, responses, experiences, and different trauma. It's important to understand that trauma-based reactions, it's understanding and working with that without judging and without judgment. It's showing lots of love, caring, heart. At meetings, a strong reaction is based on their trauma. It's not intended to be canceled, this meeting, move on. No, stay with that person. Work with them. Get through that. That's why we have DVSV agencies, to create safe spaces for the board and staff and the community who are experiencing trauma without judgment. Be willing to stay. Say someone just has a moment of breaking out or has a moment of crying. Don't leave. Stay. You may feel not comfortable on the inside, but it's not about you. It's about that person. Make the space for that person to share that. Hold the agenda. Don't say, I'm sorry, you have to hold your feelings till the next part of the agenda is done. No, 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 no. Your organization is about the survivor. It's not about your agenda. Hold the agenda. It can wait. When things are there, you have that person for the long term if you do that. They will feel like they're able to get through this with you. Because, I can't do this anywhere else. Okay? I know this word is very overused. It's annoying. Empower. All right. What does empower mean? Well, it's really to inspire, support people who want to do things for your organization and your board. You as a leader, your job is to inspire, support, encourage. You are in the business of inspiring survivors. I lost you. Something came up on my screen I couldn't see anymore. So hold on, I click something to shut it off, and I hate when that happens. Um, yeah. Carrie says, I love you. I love you, Carrie, too. I'm watching and learning from you as well, Julie. I'm wondering if you can explain what a flat organization looks like, how you communicate, what sort of positions you have on the board. Okay, the board is really, even though I'm considered a chairperson, I'm not really acting like a chair. It's more of a team approach with the board members, based on each person's strengths. Okay, we all have different strengths, and we want to take advantage of those strengths and those passions. What do you really want to do? So we become supporters, part of each of the board members' team to accomplish their goals. Like, for example, Brian Berlinski, board member, he's an openly gay man and was very motivated and wanted to host a fundraiser during the Pride Month. We invited two deafies in drag to come on out and fundraise. And we were okay with that. We supported that. We advertised it. People showed up and helped him plan and organize. And that was one example of how we flattened the organization. Not let Julie's the chair, report to Julie. No, we communicate with each other. We over communicate. We email. We email to all. It's called over communication. Instead of just you to me to them, me to them. No. We do it all together as a team. It's a team approach for each of the board members' commitments to contributing to the organization. That's flat. Empowers me as you know, it's not above, if you will. I hired the person, of course, but there's not above or below at all. The power of the director has a direct line of work with the survivor. So working with survivors is confidential. The board has no idea what is going on over there, but we trust that person, and they report back to us about funding, grants, any sort of social justice issues they need support from us on, and to respond as a group. We did have a situation at the drag fundraiser. We had a situation, and it was the same. We all had the same message and same response. One survivor left because the community was not comfortable. That survivor, the one abuser left because we asked them to leave. It was not safe for the community. But you can't do it alone saying, me, I decide you need to leave. Together we came and said, please leave. And that's because we have over communicated without breaking confidentiality of the survivor. Now, I want to add something here. When I ask the abuser to leave, it's important that the survivors know. We want to provide support. They made the request because sometimes if the community accountability is to ask the abuser to leave without notifying the survivor, it could have a backlash effect. Always have that conversation and discussion with the survivor for possible backlash, because those discussions are made possible because the staff and the board work together on the community level. The staff works with the individual survivors. That's the staff. We work with the community. Our goal is to shift how the community views DVSV and puts more responsibility on the community to take accountability. In the old days, we were secret, private, the community, where there's a referral and over the wall it goes and don't look at it. And so it's more the status quo, and that's been ongoing. But in seeing that, the board members became representative to the community to push for change, that transformation, that change. For example, right now, more and more athletes in sports, NFL, basketball, with the NBA, they're taking a community accountability. For example, the Warriors rejected the offer to go to the White House. They turned it down and said, no, because I don't agree with your politics. That's a community accountability. That was not done before. Now the community is accountable. They're becoming, there's a new shift. At the time, we as the board had tried, if we tried that, wow, we had a huge backlash. It was huge, but we survived through it because we made it flat on an organizational approach. We worked together with survivors and we survived. The more flat your organization is, the more you will survive backlash. When you do social justice work and community accountability work in parallel. Does that make sense? Okay. It's important though, with all of this, don't do it without being survivor-centric. Survivor is in the middle of your organization. Always check with survivors. Another example here is, during our voting for board meetings, we don't follow Robert's Rule of Order. That's out the window. We don't, majority votes out. We look at consensus. Sometimes with our discussions and we look at something, you feel everyone's comfortable, everyone says yes, then we move on. 100% agreement. Not 99%, not 75%. It has to be comfortable, with those before the next steps go on. Occasionally there's arguments. Remember, trauma-based responses happen and reactions happen. So don't take it personally. Listen, process, come to agreement. Develop with a solution for all. You want to see this happen together. That is constant. In the past, we had 75% yes, 25% no. The 20% were upset and they're emotional, they feel oppressed, and there's disagreements and arguments. That is very hierarchical in a new approach. When you come to consistency and consensus, that's more community based, and it's more death survivor friendly as well. Any questions about that? No? We do not pursue an idea if two or one board member, at least one member, is not comfortable with the idea, we hold it. Process means we need more time to just talk about it, or I need more, self-diagnosis and analytics of my own self. I don't want to set another person because I have to look at myself and make those changes. That is the idea of an evolving group. You're always evolving and changing. What's neat is our very best ideas happen because of this, okay? Really, it's worth it. How we transitioned from a hierarchy to a flat approach was a process, a lot of time, a lot of retreat discussions and research and discussions. We had consensus to make the transformation and then continue the practice of consensus going forward. We are still learning as well. Remember, it's important to have the ability to adapt into response to social justice issues. Because it's flat of an organizational approach, we have an opportunity to discuss what we're going to do, how we'll respond, how will we adapt. What works today may not work tomorrow. We get back together and discuss it once again and make those changes and adapt and change. We as human beings are always changing. We are always growing. What I could not see previously, now I can, and I understand. That process and that dialogue, that is social justice-based work. Looking at the other side. In the past, I thought it was a good idea until a person of color said, hey, no, 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 no. I'm like, oh, I never knew that. So I reverted, backed up, got rid of it, and dropped it, and my idea was stopped. And so it's trying a new idea. Always check. What you think is a good idea may not be for others. That's why this is flat. Discussion approached is important. Feeling included and inclusive. With that approach, you have a better and more success with fundraising and events and with donations. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. You know what I miss about, this? I don't see your lovely faces. I miss this. I'm looking out. I don't see you. I don't know if you're nodding your head, if you're falling asleep, if you're bored, if you're overwhelmed. I don't have a pulse on the group here. I can't see you. Well, my goal today for all of you is I want you to understand the difference between managing and leading, encouraging. Okay? Managing is day-to-day operation stuff. Leading, encouraging, human dynamics are involved for social justice communities to change. That comes with experience. For example, who's great? Let's see here. Steph Curry. Okay, let's talk about Steph Curry. He just won. The Warriors won. Okay, they're amazing. They're awesome. He's outstanding basketball player. Did it happen overnight? No. It's the totality of his experience and practice and training. That's the same here. You'll become very skilled and amazingly talented if you're willing to start somewhere and build your experience. If you haven't experienced it, it does not mean it's too late. It's willing to step out. It's willing to have backlash. Be willing to make mistakes. Be willing to Get people upset with you and be willing to apologize. Saying, I made a mistake. How can I do this differently next time? Because this new direction of a flat organization, survivor centered, based on social justice work, still is new. Even though it's a lot of discussions happened, you won't find a lot of articles on this or publications about how to do this. Some people will say, ooh, no, there's not enough research on this topic. Please. You have to go through research to be willing to try something new? No, come on now. Put that to the side. Go with your intuition and your gut. You are deaf. You are survivors. You work closely with survivors. If you know what's going on already, you know best. Please be willing and trust your instincts and your intuition and adapt. It's the only way if you want to see change. If you want to see, I was going to say this, transformation. Any questions? Libby. Okay, I'm reading this. She says, digesting a lot of information. Question in a specific example. How do you share the vision with the community? Forums, community-wide, do you start with specific groups? I'm realizing that each community is different and some ideas may be helpful. Oh, that's a great question, Libby. To start, the first things first, because you already, like we already have a structure of a hierarchical structure, starting with the retreat with your board and having discussions about this idea, of a flat group. Start that with your board first and your staff. Then try to release that and launch it and have community forums. It's important that you have survivors on your board, and people can represent social justice on your board as well. Okay? Recruit those people with different lenses of experience. Start with your board, though, in your board retreat. Focus on this. We started with this discussion alone. And it's not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing. It took me 1 year, 1.5 years, to transition with a lot of discussions. Then you have to over-communicate going forward. Like I've mentioned before, email list. You're emailing everybody. It becomes a dance between, Amber is our, she's not executive director. She's the ambassador director. She's in the business of inspiring survivors in their journey. So she communicates with her survivors. They don't come to us. We, as the board members, communicate to everyone and over-communicate with each other and communicate with the community as well. We put up videos often, so the community knows what's going on. We give presentations at various events, take the pulse of the community and be open. Some people are upset. We say, hey, come on, tell us, please. It's keeping an open dialogue with your community. It can be a forum. Community-wide event, could be online. Again, depends on your community. Our community here, we have a School for the Deaf nearby, CSD. We have DACARA nearby. Some organizations disagree with us, but we stay firm with our values and we let the organization have more time to process and understand our position. We know that when we try something new, people will judge us. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Whatever the thought was. We are in this together. We don't fold. We hold firm, and we move forward, and we do what's right. Let's start with your board and staff, though. Both of them together at a meeting, board and staff, with survivors as well. Start there. Any other questions? No? Yes, DC. Very strong commuting, train, metro. Is it MART? Is it MART? What's the name of your? No. That's Georgia. Your subway system looks a lot like our BART system. Oh, Metro. Thank you. Yes, that's the Metro. Anyways, If commuting is an issue, it's very difficult for people to actually get into you. You can look into various options, like this, for example. Maybe you can see their faces. I don't like not seeing you in your faces, but right. What do you mean by leaving? Like moving out of the DC area? Or you want to give up because the people are giving up because they're moving out of DC, or because of the commute, or they're giving up on the commuting difficulties? What do you mean by that? I guess why is it so much work on the board? I guess I'm just asking here. I'm an inquiring person. I'm going to inquire with you. Why? I guess why do they feel it's too much work on the board? Okay, fundraising. That's a good analogy. Okay, you got two questions then. One of them I'm going to focus on is Shaza. Then I'll turn it over to Libby. Okay, so let's start there. Shaza says, okay, fundraising. Most people hate fundraising. I've got to teach them that they are fundraising the board. Okay, the board has to feel they have a purpose. Their experience on the board must be beneficial. If they don't feel like they have that sense of purpose, or it doesn't feel like it's beneficial to them, it'll be hard to get them motivated to fundraise. You as the leader, I'm curious, are you a hierarchy for structure, or are you a flat organization? Just wondering. Okay, I'll wait for your response. But anyways, you as the leader have to encourage and give your board members the sense of purpose, the sense of being and value that will lead to the motivation to fundraise. Oh, hierarchy. Chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary. Okay. Okay. Number one reason why board members leave is because they feel no purpose, or they feel belong. They don't have a strong sense of belonging. So think about your values. Board members' values, do they match the organizational values? Or do the organizational values match the board values? Again, we talked about that, but is it reciprocal? Is it cyclical? Is it reciprocating? Again, we don't have a lot of turnover with our board members because they feel they have purpose. We have one survivor. No, survivor because of her daughter and grandson who were murdered by the abuser. She found purpose at Deaf Hope, sharing her story, presenting, and her experience of the loss of her daughter there's ups and downs. There's a place to cry, to grieve. It's a lifetime of grief, and we support. And she found family at Deaf Hope. So again, look into yourself. What are your values? Do your board members feel like they belong? Do they feel that this is becoming a safe place for themselves as well? Again, I can't answer that in this short of time, but it's important. What are the values is where I'd start, and then making board members feel that they're beneficial. Mm-hmm. Yep. Team connections. So survivor centric, and the next level out here is community based with intersectionality and social justice lenses. And the next level out would be recruiting and pulling them in. They can feel connected. If a person does not feel connection with the organization and values, that's survivor centric, it is not worth it. Look for a person who has heart, that they want to give, okay? All right. Let's go back up to Libby. Let me look for Libby's comment. Survivors who are currently getting services, working DVSA agencies. Remember, there is no timeline for survivors. Sometimes we have board members, we think they're not survivors, and something hits them and they become survivors of DVSV during their time on the board. Again, to answer this question, it's really all our survivors. 1 out of 2 deaf women will experience DVSV based on Rochester's research. 1 out of 2. So really, this agency is for survivors. The board should be involved no matter when it occurred to them. So whether they got services or not, that doesn't matter. This is one place in the entire state or your state where survivors feel at home. So without a hierarchy structure, hierarchy makes them feel underneath you. We're taking care of you. Having it as a playing field, we're equals. Okay? I hope that answers your question. So we don't, well, to get services from us, no, I can't help you. No, no, no. We're more community based of an organization. So if a survivor on the board starts to get services in the middle of their term, we would never know unless they volunteer that information to let us know. We would never know as board members. Okay? Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions at this time? So right now it's 12:05. So how much time do we have remaining for questions? 10 minutes? Is that right? Ah, good. We've got 25 minutes. Wonderful. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, let me be a little more technical about the flat organization with the board. Okay, facilitating leadership. It's not to the idea for a leader is seeing people and encouraging them to become leaders themselves. Okay, a good leader creates more leaders. So, as a leader, executive director, board member, and the like, you become more of a communicator. What your organization means. I have a responsibility to communicate, and Amber has a responsibility to communicate. What is Deaf Hope? We absorb that, we explain that, what's our vision, what do we foresee, what are our goals. We create that attraction based on our honesty. And not in regards to PR, that's not what I'm speaking of. It's being honest, showing what we are all about. That's what leaders do. They show our vision and our mission to the community to bring them in. Now, knowing how to filter that as well, meaning, who I am, we're from a place of heart. Who's from a place of control? You want to look for people of heart. The values and your vision needs to be, you need to share your values. If you force values on others, you will lose them. That's why at the retreat, it's important to be done annually, to get together, check in on values, goals, revisiting mission statements. We evolved. Again, we were, what were we? We were women in, what was the old mission? I probably forgot it. But again, we were focusing on women. We've changed that to put it as a community, to the deaf community. Semantics are different, within the deaf community. So we've evolved because of the retreats and discussions and making changes and adapting your vision with a shared value. Empowerment, inspiring people to do what needs to be done, not ordering people to do that. Inspiring people. What can I do to help you? Or what ideas do you have? Can I share an idea with you? You're in the business of making people feel inspired, impassioned. You want to keep their heart and the flame alive. Okay? As leaders of tomorrow, community accountability and social justice is really work of tomorrow. Because right now we don't see equity. So we're doing the work to achieve that for tomorrow. You need to understand human dynamics and understand backlash, understanding how to be fluid with your approach. If you hit a wall, for example, figuring a way to get around that block, if you will. so you don't keep bumping into it, and don't give up. Discuss that with your team. Come up with different ideas to get around the barrier. My leadership is very water, if you will. It's very fluid. I don't want to accept, no, we're stopping. If we have to go through it, under it, around it, over it, we'll get through it. We'll find a way around with the flexibility of shared values. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw a type. I thought I saw someone else, another question. No, no, it's fine. Um, I got my notes on top of your typing, so let me know if somebody's asking a question, okay? Because I can't see the chat box. Okay, so if you have leadership without intention or without transformation, that transformative idea, that vision, if there's the idea of just proceeding, it's not leadership. It becomes management. Management is just running, facilitating. Ask yourself, inquire amongst yourselves, check in with your board and your staff. Are we managing or are we leading? Check yourself. Look at that. Are you sharing the same values? Are you staying on point with your mission statement and your vision? Are we adapting? Or are we stuck in the same old, in the same ways? Are we changing and evolving? Really, it's important having that question, designing your own questionnaire every year, checking in, asking yourself, asking others, reading, reviewing, and doing a 360-degree view of what's going on. We do that. We should do that more at Deaf Hope. We still are on that learning curve. What I'm saying is ideal, okay? Putting into practice, we are still developing this ourselves. I'm being very honest here. I'm coming from a place of honesty. Any questions? None? Oh, quiet group. What does human mean to you? I'm just wondering. I'm going to force you all to answer, so please type your... Let's see responses. Nothing? What is human? What does that mean? Well, your mind, your spirit, your health, body, those are all, who you are is a human. So you have to interact with and become holistic with your approach with social justice. You can't do an effective social justice work for DVSV, against violence work without that knowledge and becoming aware of your own and aware of yourself as a human being. That's that holistic approach. Our mindset, where our heart is, our heart set, our spirit, our health. Sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. I'm guilty of this. You move on and do things, and it's saying, hey, time out. We have a responsibility to check in with each other and check in on our human health. How are you? How is your heart? How is your mind? It's checking in. I might need a timeout. I might need, to go for a walk. Or I need a vacation. I need to leave and lay on a beach for a while. Again, it's important to take the time and self-care as a human being during this work. And that's where the transformation can come within your organization, because it will not be easy. We do not have an easy time during this transformation. Wow, we did not. People seem to love to do videos and vlogs about us finding faults in us. We stayed firm. I don't vlog back. You don't find one vlog back from us. We just held firm, and we rode the storm of the backlash, because there's always light at the end. Hard one. Why is this a hard one? Someone said it's a hard one. Oh, human. It's a hard one. Because it's easy for us as people of heart to forget about our own hearts. We do things for other people, for you, but don't forget about yourself. You have to remember that. How does the board practice self-care? We are open with check-ins. Well, we open with a check-in at every single board meeting. The first thing we do is we sing the mission statement together to end domestic violence, sexual violence against deaf community through empowerment, education, and service. That's why we are here. Then we check in with each individual person. Some people come in saying, why do you talk about yourselves? No. The check-in is to reconnect and really know whether we are okay or not okay and supportive. Ask each other, what is it you need? Before we start a meeting, what is a nonprofit for? Are you running minutes? No. It's about the people. A nonprofit should not be disconnected from people. It has to be ingrained in the community of people, of human beings. And so remember why we have Deaf Hope and why we have the Safe Space or Deaf Safe and ADWAS and all these different groups. Ignite. There's so many more names. Dawn. Why do we have all these groups? Why do these organizations exist? Because we're in the business of taking care of each other as human beings. We cannot forget that. That's the business of caring. So when we opened, we show that caring. We want to know where each board member is and listening, where they're at before we start the meeting. If they have something going on, if they forgot their lunch today, saying, oh, okay, you're going to need to eat. You'll have to have a good dinner tonight. Or your mother passed away last week. I'm so sorry to hear that. How can we support you? And the next person. And again, our needs as human beings change every single day. And we are free to show up and be honest with our feelings, with our lives. Some days are fantastic and some days are disjointed. It's being open. Open up. That is how we take care of each other. When you're open, now I've got a board member who just moved away. They said, I really miss that check-in. Loved it. Love the check-in, being honest and open. Look forward to that every board meeting so they could have the check-in. Like, oh, okay. Wow, we support each other. They moved away saying, wow, there's no organization that practices that in this new state. I enjoy it as well. We become a family. We care. Okay? Any other questions? Did we face any challenges in transition? Yes, I did. Personal experience here. Yes, it was conflicting. Let me see here. As the executive director, my responsibility to the board and to the staff, to the board, if the board had a closed meeting, confidential, don't share with the staff. If a survivor thing, I didn't share with the board. So I often felt like I was a middle person between these two groups. It's a lot of stress on me as an executive director. I remember, this confidentiality. I'm not at liberty to discuss this. So there I am. So not much was said. So things just went over my head. So I'd have to answer that question. There's a whole different approach there. But the actual transformation to being open. The old approach came up there. One board member was so upset with me that I was confidential this time. And the new practices, she would never know. She would know right away. So I felt I lost trust of this particular person. That broke my heart. That really, really broke my heart. It's still to this day. Because the old practice caused me to lose a friend. And that's the price I had to pay during the transformation. I can only hope that person can forgive me. At that time, it was a very different circumstance and situation. I know this wouldn't, what doesn't happen anymore because we've already made the full transition. It's done. But yeah, you'll see that occur during the transformation. I think it's important that you emphasize to board members, you are going to see some things that come up because of the old practice. Please don't be hard on me. That situation is very difficult on that person, and rightfully so. It's a bump in the transition. But the bump was not easy. It was painful for me because I valued that person. I hope that person can trust me again in the future. It's a process of transitioning. Libby. Libby is asking, if you have a new member who knows no DVSA, what sort of training, numbers of hours, does the board receive? Up to this point, well, let me think your members. Maybe Amber can answer that better. Our board members up to this point get a full DVSV training, full, which is 40 hours. Because how can a board member understand the vision if they don't have the foundation of training? It's like making decisions based on little information. That's quite scary. With full training, they can make good, full viewed decisions. Prior to this becoming a demand, I was quite frustrated because decisions would be made without consensus. And I was stuck explaining, no, this is going to hurt survivors. And they didn't understand how their decision would oppress survivors. So it was conflict with social justice work because I didn't have that foundation of training. So really, it's important to have that foundation of training. And you'll keep them longer. Because once you have that training, it's like once you have DVSV training, you don't go back. You can't unsee things. Okay? It stays with you forever. Libby stating, I appreciate you stating the board needs to talk with the community about DVSA, community accountability. Often the board looks to the agency to handle that portion of it, and board members feel we are in a better position to handle this sort of situation because board members are not just, how to deal with the situation or how do we help them. We reach a place where they feel comfortable with the community accountability. That is why we changed. That is what we were dealing with. People looking at me saying, hey, I'm like, well, I'm talking here. And it was more of a responsibility on me instead of on the community. It's not an agency issue, it's a community issue. And so once we made that practice, it was 40 hours of training. This is key, 40 hours. They can start to understand the dynamics, the system. They can understand the survivor's trauma. They're more, again, have mutual understanding and coming from the heart. It takes time to process and plan on how to work together. That board training approach is in the DVSA training as well. The organization, the flat organization approach is within this training. And so again, people in this training are saying, I want to be involved with the board. I agree with this kind of practice. It's a whole organization training approach. So once a person is trained, they're ready to become board members. And the more people in the community that you train, the more option you have to recruit and bring on members. That training leads to an organization-wide discussion on ongoing meetings. We have monthly meetings, by the way. We could change it to bi-monthly, but I noticed that when we are not meeting, things come up and we don't have a face-to-face time to have discussions, strategies and ideas. So, different experiences, points of view. And remember, the lenses, everything is a lens and that perspective and then going on and together with that consensus. So again, training, board development, survivor, staff. They're all together. They're not separate from each other. They're together. Survivors join trainings as well. It's really a healing opportunity for them. So again, we have a whole organizational approach based on the community. There is no separation, except for the confidentiality portion. Okay? Libby says thank you. Any other questions? It's funny, I mentioned to Amber, I've not presented for the last 6 years. I left 6 years ago as the executive director. And what I remember, but wow, this is, as a board chair, I've gone through this journey with Deaf Hope, and I know more than I realized. But this should be your journey and experience as a human being, board member, staff, survivor. You are working together. You become a strong DVSV community with strong DVSV work, a survivor-centric community. You can then come up with more solutions with social justice, community accountability, because you have more lenses, more perspectives. Really, I wish I had this before the 6 years, because really I was lonely at this work. It was a lonely job, not being able to sleep, and really always on my mind, and am I doing the right thing, questioning myself, that sort of thing. And reaching out, looking for those perspectives, but not doing it as a group, saying, hey, what do you think, and getting a pulse from this person, and before making decisions and deciding something. But now it's a group effort. We're in this together. It's not an individual problem, it's a community problem. Okay? Yes. Collective. You can't have collective leadership with traditional structures. It's a challenge. I'm just letting you know that. It's a challenge. Having a traditional hierarchy is not collective. But being flat is more of a collective across the organization and the community, because the organization is ingrained in the community. And so a large number of staff, wow, this is very interesting. I went to Google. There's deaf people that work at Google. It's not far from here. I was just floored to see how the CEO runs meetings. It's very flat. The CEO comes in, says, okay, I want to hear what you think about Trump. And he listened to the discussions, and he said, okay, the following week I want to hear how you feel about immigration issues. And so the discussion happened. And there's a lot of people of color that work at Google. And there's a lot of immigrants who work there as well, talking about their fears and their perspectives. And I was just like, wow. A corporation can have a flat approach as well. They can. And Google is huge. And so you have about 25 staff, correct, Libby? 25? I think it's about 20, 25. Yeah, close to that. Okay. There's a lot of planning and communicating and transitioning. It's starting with the vision first. What is your vision? If you don't have a clear vision, you'll be all over the place. It's focusing on that vision, values. There are many, there's a list of values. I've got a list of values here. It's nice if you wanted to just do like a check mark on where those board members and staff members' values sit and look for commonality that link them. What values does this person have and this person have? And that becomes shared values. And then starting that strategic planning. You're not alone. You have us at Deaf Hope who've gone through this, and we can share with you, is this normal? Is this not normal? Don't do it alone. Use your network of resources as well. But you can do it with a larger agency. It can be done. I see Amber typing. There are hearing organizations that are large with collective structures. Yes. Yeah, hearing organizations do have them. Amber's going to share a resource with you. I see there are some people who think that corporations, I've actually seen corporations who are more flat in their approaches. And they tend to be more effective than corporations that are more of a hierarchy structure. Having to work in a cubicle, if you will. It's not human based in that approach. Remember, this earth is full of human beings, and we are not robots. We are people. And it's going back to remembering the core values of people. Going back to that heart. We go back to that heart, which means caring. We have to care. You're in the business of caring, and don't forget that. Okay? I think now it's 12:30. I love you, Carrie. This is not about position the agency, but it's more about approach and getting ideas. Can there be another webinar? Uh-huh. Yes. Amber said yes, there will be another webinar. She's notified me of this. So saying, talking about positions of agencies, or if you can't, can you guys still see me? Hello, Amber? Can you still see me? Okay, they can. Great. Sorry, I thought I was disconnected. Um, you can't talk about fundraising or structures of organizations without going back to your values first and foremost and vision. Then you can move on with the talking about structures. Okay, so as I mentioned to Amber, that Amber is like, we'll definitely have another webinar to expand on that idea, which is great. So again, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you to Julie for sharing your perspectives. There's so much insight here. I think you're right. Oftentimes we're looking for the answer on what's given, but each community is different. Each organizational support is different. So we encourage a learning broad concepts, and then we can apply that to fit your organization. We'd be happy to share more information with each of you for specific positions and how, the what, and how that looks. So if you're interested in a collective structure, we can share more with you and set up a webinar on that portion of it. In relation to the board, I love the response and the comments about the heart. That really is what keeps board members going, and that's what I want to attract new board members. That's what really gives our organization the ability to be effective and do effective work. Again, thank you so much. So I hope you all are able to join us next week. On Monday, we'll have a discussion meeting about this topic. So we will share more on technicals on this, but we'll share some specifics on what fits with your organization. So again, same time next Monday, 11 California time. It'll be 2 o'clock Eastern. So again, I hope to see you there. Thank you so much. Julie, I love you. Bye-bye.